What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I bring to you yet another posing showcase, this time featuring Hot Toys MMS 579 Loki, the God of Mischief from Avengers End Game. Let's get it. Okay guys, scene number 1. And to kick this off, let's start with King Loki here, sitting atop his throne in possibly the last pose I'll ever put this figure in once I'm finished with this showcase. Now that I have this throne, which doesn't come with this figure, this is how I want to have him in my display, because for me, I think this scene really captures the essence of Loki and his hunger for glorious purpose at this point in time the best. Loki the character has taken an interesting journey throughout the MCU so far and gone through some changes which I have personally enjoyed myself, but there is no denying that in the first Avengers film, when he was at his villainous peak, that was awesome. So to have a representation of this version of him in my collection is a must for me. Now, including the intro and outro today, we have a total of 10 scenes, and just a reminder that in my showcases I use multiple figures and or accessories to help tell the story. In this video, I'll be playing around with more poses that try to encapsulate the essence of Loki's personality and character to hopefully give you some ideas on how you can display him in your collection, so please feel free to use any of the poses that you see here today. Lastly, don't forget, if you like my content, hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow and continue to make this type of content, not to mention I really appreciate all the support, guys. But now, with that, you know what we do. Scene number 2. We're going nice and simple here with Loki just standing, holding both his daggers in hand with some green smoke effects I borrowed from Mysterio for a bit of flair. This is the type of pose you can do if you're more akin to museum type poses, as there is no risk to the figure and you get to incorporate some of his accessories that I assume not as many people would be displaying their Loki figures with. When it comes to a pose like this though, where the figure is just standing there, don't be fooled. There's still a lot of tweaks you can do to add personality and showcase the character. We all don't just stand straight up and down, so keep that in mind when doing poses like this. I have every part of him tweaked from his head to his feet. Whilst it's subtle, you still need to be mindful of lines and natural stances, even in basic poses like this. Scene number 3. I've switched out the daggers now for the iconic long scepter he donned in parts of the film, and I must say, this accessory is my favourite of the bunch, and I know why most people will probably have him holding it in their displays. You know, this was the very first pose I came up with when I first got this guy, hence the different lighting setup. This was going to be the lighting I was going to use until I switched to the other lighting setup that we have in the rest of the scenes. For this pose, this one's a little more difficult than the first as we have more movement involved. I've brought in the base that he comes with so you can see how you can use it to keep him balanced whilst he's still conveying more movement. To me, this is Loki mid-step, sending out a command to his legions, which I think is a nice display option if you want him doing something a little more than just a museum pose. Scene number 4. And for this one, we start to step up the degree of difficulty as we go for a more dynamic pose for the display here. This time I've brought in the shorter scepter for this, as this pose is inspired from the start of Avengers when Loki arrives to Earth and starts blasting fools at the shield facility. We are going without a base as well, as his stance is quite wide here, and the smaller size of the base as Hot Toys gives us doesn't work well for me with wide stance poses like this. The good news is he balances well, so no issues there. Personally, I also don't think this is a risky pose for the figure, as we don't have too much bent or twisted, even though he is quite dynamic here. I will say, a pose like this will depend on the space you have, as he does take up a fair bit with the scepter coming out like that. I can also tell you he moves really well and can definitely hold a look like this easily though. Scene number 5. We progress to another dynamic stance, but this time using the long scepter. This one here is one of my personal favourites. To me, this reminds me of him in a standoff position in mid-battle about to blast the scepter. Again, this takes up a bit of space, so be mindful of your display when attempting poses like this. As mentioned, I can tell you he moves really well for a figure with a lot of pleather and material, and he can pull off a lot of poses if you want to have him doing lots of different things. However, for me, the question is not whether he can do dynamic poses, but whether you want to have him doing really dynamic poses in your display. I'd like to put this to you guys. For a character like Loki, how would you prefer to have him in your display? Let me know in the comments down below. Scene number 6. We now bring in a companion piece to help tell a story. For this one, I've brought in the 2012 cap to create a moment to showcase Loki being dominant, which is actually inspired from the moment in Avengers when Loki is fighting Cap and he knocks him down and does just this with the scepter. And he says, "Kneel." It's a quick moment, but I wanted to capture him in a winning position. To pull this off, I've brought in the base that comes with the battle damage Thanos to have Loki perched on. Reason for this is it makes it easier to achieve this look with the long scepter. Now this is probably not something I'm going to leave these guys in on the shelf, but it's definitely something fun to play around with, especially just to see it and for toy photography, if that's something you like to do with your collection. Do you guys remember this moment from Avengers? Let me know in the comments down below. Scene number 7. We have Loki presenting the mighty Thanos with the Tesseract. This whole scene started out originally because I had the idea of having Loki bowing somehow with the Tesseract behind his back. But as I fiddled around, I remembered the moment from Infinity War when he presented the Tesseract to Thanos, and so it turned into what we have here. This one is one of my favourite poses with Loki, as I think it captures his nature perfectly. You have him bowing in what you think is compliance, presenting you with something, yet he has his other hand hidden behind his back with the dagger, ready to double cross you. Now whilst I have Thanos here for this because I do really like how these guys match up together, I think Loki on his own in your display like this is a really cool safe posing option. Scene number 8. Now I thought it would be fun to play around with the what if scenario for this one. What if Loki used the Mind Stone on Hulk instead of letting Hulk smash him? Well, this is an option right here. I love the idea of Loki having Hulk chained up like a beast at his disposal. We all know this Loki loved to rule, and in Avengers his plan was to set off Hulk to distract the team so he could action his plan without interference. Pose-wise, it's a simple setup, yet I really like this scene. The difference in size between them and the fact that green plays a big part in both of their looks, I think works really well together. Add in the chain and Bob's your uncle. Now for the chain, I got that from a local hardware store here and the rest was easy. Now if Loki's your favourite character, then this could be a cool display option for you in your collection. Scene number 9. I thought I'd play around with the throne again, but try something other than sitting on it for those who worry about damaging his outfit by having him seated long term. For this I wanted to emulate a look we've all seen Loki do. Again, nice and simple with him just standing there, arms out to the side. This one reminds me of President Loki from the TV series when he showed up, but I feel this pose would be best suited with a smirking face sculpt. However, I think having him like this at the top of the steps of the throne is a cool, iconic way to have your Loki displayed without fear of long-term damage. The throne is fantastic, so if you have it or you're going to get it, you can display it in many different ways other than just having him sitting on it. Scene number 10, the outro. To close this one out, we have the king back on his throne, but this time with all of his trophies, plus the bonus of his brother Thor, muzzled and chained up, as I'm sure Loki would have wanted back then. I've thoroughly enjoyed exploring the types of poses you can do with this Loki, and I hope you've enjoyed and hopefully found a pose you'd like to put your Loki figure in for your display from this showcase. And that's it, guys and girls. I thank you all for tuning in, and if you haven't already done so, do us a favor and hit that like button, notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. We now have a channel membership up and running with perks like no other, so check that out too and see if it's for you. As a thank you to whoever hops on board, I will do my best to give you all the value I can for your support. Lastly, we got reviews and unboxings, story-styled posing showcases, live streams including my shows Posed Up, where I interview fellow collectors and content creators whilst posing up figures, plus the rundown that I co-host with my guy Anthony from the Figure Posing channel, where we deep dive into film and TV. But for now, until next time, live your life, have fun, and keep posing. I'm out.